When people consider someone useless and abandon them, then sometimes fate raises them so high that the same one becomes the most valuable. This is the story of a lame horse, whom his owner threw out of the house, because he was no longer fit for work. But a poor man, despite his poverty, took care of him, without knowing that in that horse's fate, a very big secret was hidden. This is a story from very old times. On the edge of a large and busy trading city, there lived a very rich but extremely cruel merchant. His name was Qasim bin Waqar. He had hundreds of horses, mules and camels, who carried goods day and night. He had only one rule: the animal that works, feed it, and the one who becomes sick or old, throw it out. In his stable, there was a very beautiful and powerful white horse, whose name was Tufan. Tufan was his most favorite horse, because he carried the heaviest loads, and ran very fast. But one day, while passing through a mountain path, his foot slipped, and he fell into a deep gorge. He survived with great difficulty, but his back leg was badly broken. When the injured Tufan was brought before Qasim bin Waqar, he looked at him with hatred and said, "Now he has become lame. He is no longer of any use to me. Take him outside the city and leave him in the desert. I will not waste even a single grain on him." The servants immediately obeyed his order and took Tufan far away from the city and left him in a deserted place. The horse who until yesterday used to eat food like kings, today was suffering from hunger and thirst. Blood was flowing from his leg, and crows were pecking at his wound. He was groaning in pain, but there was no one to hear his voice. From the same path, a poor woodcutter was passing by, whose name was Hassan. He was about 50 years old. He was very poor, but a very kind-hearted man. He used to cut wood from the forest, and with that, he fed his children. When he saw that injured horse, his heart filled with sorrow. Looking towards the sky, he said, "Oh Allah, what kind of owner would he be, who left such a beautiful animal to die?" He had only a little dry food and a small container of water. He broke the food and fed it to the horse and gave him water to drink. The horse looked at him with grateful eyes. Hassan could not leave him alone there. He took off his turban and tied the horse's wounds with it. Then, slowly supporting him, he started taking him towards his small mud house. The road was very long, and the horse was limping while walking. But Hassan kept comforting him again and again, and saying, "Have courage, my friend. Only a little distance is left." When he reached home, his wife Fatima said in surprise, "Oh Hassan, what have you brought? We ourselves do not have food to eat. Then how will we feed this big animal?" Hassan smiled and said, "Fatima, sustenance is in Allah's hands. We cannot leave him alone." In front of the house, he made a small shelter for the horse, and despite his poverty, started serving him. Many times he himself stayed hungry, but fed the horse. He even brought medicine for him, and Fatima also slowly became attached to him. Every day she cleaned his wounds and took care of him. Many months passed. Slowly Tufan started recovering. His strength started returning, although he walked with a slight limp. One day, Hassan had gone to the forest as usual. Suddenly the weather became bad. Heavy rain and storms started. Hassan quickly started gathering wood and placing it on the horse, started returning towards home. On the way, there was an old wooden bridge, under which a fast-flowing river flowed because of the rain. That bridge had become very weak. When Hassan and the horse reached the middle of the bridge, then suddenly, the bridge broke. Hassan and the horse both fell into the fast-flowing water. The river's current was very dangerous, and Hassan did not even know how to swim. Hassan did not know how to swim, so he started drowning in the water and loudly began shouting for help. "Help! Save me!" On the other side, the horse, who had now learned a little swimming, started moving towards the shore after saving himself. But then, he heard his owner Hassan's voice. He immediately stopped and turned back to look. There was pain in his injured leg, yet he did not care about his own life. He quickly swam towards Hassan and firmly grabbed his clothes with his teeth. Then, using all his remaining strength, he started pulling him out of the water. After a lot of effort, he brought Hassan to the shore. Hassan had become unconscious. The horse started licking his face and began neighing in a sorrowful voice. After some time, Hassan slowly started regaining consciousness. He opened his eyes and saw the horse standing beside him, trembling. Seeing this, tears came out of Hassan's eyes. He hugged the horse, and while crying said, "My friend, today you have repaid my debt. You are not just an animal, you are my brother. The rain slowly stopped, and both of them returned home drenched. But after this accident, the horse's injured leg started hurting again. Now he could not even walk properly. Hassan became very sad, but he did not have money to buy medicine. Finally, he decided that he would go to the city and ask for help. When he was passing through the market, he saw a huge crowd there. A royal announcer was beating a drum and informing the people. He loudly said, "Listen, listen. The king's horse is very sick. The healers have said that to save him, a special blue herb is needed, which is found only at the foothills of Mount Quaff. Whoever brings that herb will be given a huge reward. But the path is extremely dangerous." Hearing this, Hassan fell into deep thought. He said to himself, "Perhaps this is an opportunity from Allah. If I receive the reward, then I will be able to get my friend treated." But the very next moment, he became sad, because the other people were leaving on powerful Arabian horses, and he only had a lame horse. He returned home disappointed. After reaching home, he sat beside the horse, and while crying said, "Oh, my friend, I could not do anything for you." Just then, suddenly, the horse started doing a strange action. With his injured leg, he repeatedly started scratching the ground. It seemed as if he was pointing towards a special place. At first, Hassan could not understand anything. But when the horse kept doing the same thing again and again, he became suspicious. He immediately brought a shovel and started digging at that place. After some time, the shovel struck something made of iron. Hassan quickly removed the soil and found an old iron chest buried there. It was completely covered with rust. Hassan opened it with trembling hands, but inside it, there was neither gold nor silver. Instead, there was a shining blue horseshoe placed there, on which strange ancient symbols were engraved. Along with it, a mysterious map was also kept there. Hassan did not know how to read, but he understood that this was not an ordinary thing. Perhaps this was the path that would lead him to that blue herb, and perhaps this was also the great secret of that horse's fate. At that very moment, there was suddenly a loud knock on the door. Hassan opened the door, and standing in front of him was the cruel merchant, Qasim bin Waqar. 2 armed guards were also with him. Qasim first looked at the horse, then at the blue horseshoe in Hassan's hand. A cunning smile appeared on his face. He slowly said, "O woodcutter, it seems that in your hands, a very precious thing has fallen." At that very moment, the blue horseshoe in Hassan's hand suddenly started glowing with a bright light. Suddenly on that blue horseshoe, glowing lines started appearing. Those lines were showing a path passing through the mountains. Hassan immediately remembered the king's words about the blue herb found at the foothills of Mount Qaf. Now he understood that this was not an ordinary horseshoe. It was a mysterious key, which could take him to that dangerous place. But at the same time, his heart was deeply troubled, because his friend Badal had been forcefully taken away by the men of the cruel Qasim bin Waqar. Even then, a new courage had awakened inside Hassan. Slowly looking towards the sky, he said, "O Allah, if my friend's life lies on this path, then make my journey easy." He gathered his little belongings and hid that blue horseshoe inside his clothes. Then, in the cold night, he left his small house. He was following that faint blue light, which no one except him could see. The road was very long, and danger was everywhere. But for the first time, Hassan felt that he was not alone, as if some unseen power was taking him towards his great destiny. And not only his, but Badal's as well. On the other side, in the palace of Qasim bin Waqar, Badal was standing tied in the stable. He was silently looking far away, as if he too could feel that somewhere very far, something had started changing. Something that would change his and Hassan's life forever. At that very moment, Hassan felt a strange strength in his body. It felt as if a new path had opened before him. The glowing line on the map was leading him directly towards the foothills of Mount Qaf, where the blue herb grew, with which the king's horse could be treated. Below the map, some words were also written. Whoever places this horseshoe on the hoof of his horse will run faster than the wind and cross the mountains. Hassan understood everything. This horseshoe was the secret of Badal's destiny. If he could place it on Badal, then his friend could recover completely, and perhaps he would also receive the king's reward, with which he could stand against the dhulm of Qasim bin Waqar. But the biggest problem was that Badal was still in the control of that cruel merchant. Hassan did not think for long. As soon as midnight arrived, he secretly left towards the palace of Qasim bin Waqar. He slowly climbed the wall and entered inside without making a sound. Then he moved towards the stable. Many horses were tied there. But Badal was standing alone in a dark corner. He was in pain, but completely silent. Hassan slowly went near him and whispered, "Badal, I have come." As soon as Badal heard his voice, he made a soft sound. Hassan immediately took out the blue horseshoe and started fixing it onto Badal's injured leg. As soon as the last nail was hammered in, a miracle happened. Bright blue light spread everywhere. That light started circling around Badal's leg. Suddenly, all his pain disappeared. His broken bones started joining together, and his leg started healing again. Suddenly, strength started rushing through Badal's body. It felt as if lightning had entered inside him. He stood up with full strength and neighed loudly. The entire stable shook from his voice. Just then the guards woke up and started shouting, "Thief! Thief! Catch them!" Hassan immediately climbed onto Badal's back and loudly said, "Let's go, Badal!" The very next moment, Badal jumped so high that he broke the huge stable door. Then he crossed the high walls of the palace as well, as if there were no walls at all. On the other side, Qasim bin Waqar was standing on his balcony. He watched in shock. That blue sparks were coming out from the white horse's hooves, and Hassan was escaping into the night while sitting on his back. He shouted angrily, "Catch them! This is a magical horse." Immediately his men rode after them on horses, but now Badal was no longer an ordinary horse. He was running faster than the wind. He crossed huge rivers and jumped over mountains in such a way as if nothing was difficult for him. It felt as if the ground itself was making a path for him. By morning, both of them reached a terrifying forest. The trees of that forest were red in color, and people said that dangerous man-eating animals lived there. The blue herb was beyond that forest. Suddenly, Badal stopped. He sensed some danger. Just then, from between the trees, two glowing eyes appeared. A huge lion was standing in front of them. He roared loudly, and the whole forest trembled. Hassan started trembling with fear, but Badal was not afraid at all. He struck the ground hard with his hoof, and a blue spark came out from there. The lion angrily ran towards them, but Badal moved aside like lightning, and with his back legs, kicked the lion so hard that he fell far away. The lion ran back into the forest in fear. Hassan was shocked. He could not understand how his horse had become so powerful, but there was no time to think, because from behind, the sounds of horses were coming closer. Qasim bin Waqar, along with his men and weapons, had reached the forest. He loudly shouted, "Stop, or I will shoot." Hassan tightly held the reins and said, "Run, Badal!" Both of them quickly started climbing a mountain path. That path was so narrow that only one horse could pass through it. Below, there was a gorge thousands of feet deep. One small mistake meant certain death. Qasim's men stopped in fear, but Qasim bin Waqar's greed had blinded his eyes. Shouting loudly, he ran after them. "I will not spare you. That horseshoe belongs to me." After some time, Badal reached the top of the mountain. But after reaching there, the path suddenly ended. In front was only the open sky, and behind, Qasim bin Waqar stood aiming his gun. Laughing, he said, "Give me the horse and the horseshoe, then I will let you live." Hassan looked towards the deep gorge, then looked into Badal's eyes. Badal also looked at him, as if saying, "Trust me." Hassan closed his eyes and said, "In the name of Allah." The very next moment, Badal jumped off the mountain. Qasim bin Waqar screamed loudly. He thought that both of them would die. But the very next moment, an unbelievable miracle happened. Badal was not falling down at all. It felt as if he was flying in the air. He was moving from one mountain peak towards another peak. The blue horseshoe fixed on his hoof was glowing with a bright light, as if it alone was lifting them into the sky. Seeing this, Qasim bin Waqar's eyes remained wide open. Within a short time, Hassan and Badal safely reached the other side. Finally, Hassan and Badal safely reached the other side. There they saw that the blue herb was glowing on the ground, as if blue diamonds were scattered there. Hassan shouted with joy, "We succeeded, Badal!" But on the other side, Qasim bin Waqar was still not ready to accept defeat. He ordered his men to wait for Hassan at the city gate. When at night, Hassan reached near the city, he saw that there was strict security everywhere. Qasim's men were spread across every road. Hassan understood that entering through the main gate was impossible. He patted Badal's neck and said, "My friend, we will have to find another way." At the same moment, an old poor man sitting beside the road said, "Son, if you want to reach the palace, then go through the old drain route. It is dirty, but safe." Hassan thanked that old man and moved on that path. After a long time, they reached behind the palace. But a new problem was standing there. The palace wall was very high, and there was no way to enter inside. Badal smelled the wall and softly neighed, as if he was thinking whether he would be able to jump this time as well. But now, the glow of the blue horseshoe had started weakening. Its power was slowly ending. Hassan raised his hands towards the sky and prayed, "Oh Allah, just help us one last time." Badal stepped a few paces back, then ran with all his strength and jumped towards the high wall. He reached the top of the wall, but his back leg struck against the wall. Both of them lost balance and fell into the palace garden. As soon as they fell, noise spread everywhere. The palace guards came running and surrounded both of them from all sides. They started shouting, "Who are you? Are you spies?" Just then, the king himself came onto the palace balcony. In surprise, he looked at a poor man and an injured horse. Then his gaze fell upon the blue herb in Hassan's hand. The king's eyes lit up. In astonishment, he said, "This is the same herb." Then he immediately ordered, "Do not stop them. Bring them to me with respect." Hassan was surrounded from all sides by royal soldiers, but now he was being treated with respect. He was taken inside the palace. His clothes were torn. His face was covered with dust and exhaustion. But the blue herb held in his hand was still glowing. A sweet fragrance was coming from it, which spread throughout the royal court. Everyone was astonished. The king was sitting on his magnificent throne, and beside him stood his sick horse, who looked very weak. Looking towards Hassan, the king said, "Oh, poor woodcutter, you have done that, which even my bravest men could not do. You fought against death and brought the rare herb of Mount Qaf." Hassan bowed in greeting and placed the herb before the king. He said, "My lord, all this happened with Allah's help and because of my loyal friend Badal." The king immediately called the healers. They fed that herb to the royal horse. Within just a few moments, the horse's condition started changing. The shine returned to his eyes, and he loudly neighed. The entire court filled with joy. The king happily stood up and said, "This is nothing less than a miracle. My horse has recovered." Then looking towards Hassan, he said, Ask for whatever you want. I will give you immense wealth." But Hassan lowered his head and said, "I do not want wealth, my lord. I only wish that my friend Badal be treated and that he receive the respect which he deserves." Hearing Hassan's words, the king was deeply impressed. He immediately ordered the minister, "Give Badal the best treatment and keep Hassan in the palace like a guest." But the story was not over yet. Suddenly, loud noise started rising outside the palace. Some soldiers came running and said, "My lord, Qasim bin Waqar is standing outside the palace. He is presenting himself as the victim." The king ordered him to be brought inside. After a short while, Qasim bin Waqar entered the court while crying. He directly fell at the king's feet and loudly said, "My lord, this man is a thief. This horse belongs to me. His real name is Tufan. I had left him with this man as a trust, but he stole him, and this blue herb as well. Actually, I myself brought it." Hearing this, Hassan trembled with anger. He loudly said, "He is lying, my lord. It was this very man who threw this poor horse into the desert to die. It was this very man who left this horse to die." But then, Qasim bin Waqar took out some papers from his pocket. He said, "My lord, here are the proofs that I am his owner, and this blue horseshoe as well is my mark." The king became confused. The papers looked completely genuine, but the truth was clearly visible in Hassan's eyes. The king consulted his minister. The minister said, "My lord, this matter is very difficult. Its decision must be made wisely." After thinking for some time, the king announced before the entire court, "Tomorrow morning, there will be a test in the royal ground. If the horse truly belongs to Qasim, then he will go to him. And if he is Hassan's companion, then he will obey only him. Whoever controls the horse will be considered his true owner." The next morning, the entire royal ground was filled with people. Everyone had come to see this decision. Qasim bin Waqar stood proudly among his soldiers and servants. On the other side, Hassan stood alone and calm. After a short while, Badal was brought into the middle of the ground. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him. First of all, Qasim bin Waqar stepped forward. There was a leather whip in his hand and expensive sweets in his pocket. In a loud voice, he said, "Come too, Fan." But Badal looked at him angrily and did not move from his place. When Qasim started moving towards him, Badal quickly turned around and stood in front of Hassan. It seemed as if he was protecting his friend. Like a strong wall, he stood before Hassan. Qasim angrily moved forward again. Just then, suddenly, Badal delivered a powerful kick. Qasim bin Waqar was thrown into the air and fell onto the ground. He started screaming in pain. The entire ground fell silent. His men became frightened, and none of them dared to go near Badal. Everyone had seen with their own eyes. With whom Badal stood. On the other side, Hassan was still injured. Badal went near him and slowly started licking his wounds, as if he wanted to give life back to his friend again. Hassan opened his eyes with difficulty and in a soft voice said, "Badal, you saved me again." At that very moment, the glow of the blue horseshoe slowly started fading. Its power had completed its task. Within just a few moments, its light almost disappeared. Now Badal again appeared calm. But in his eyes, the same strength and loyalty still remained. A man from the crowd said in fear, "This is not an ordinary horse." On the other side, Qasim bin Waqar was trembling with fear and anger. Even then, he started getting up while raising his sword. But just then, Badal struck the ground hard with his hoof. The entire ground trembled. Seeing this, Qasim stepped back. Hassan said in a weak but firm voice, "This is the result of oppression. There is no power greater than Allah's power." At that very moment, the last glow of the blue horseshoe also disappeared. It felt as if nature itself had announced that the battle was over. Badal slowly came near Hassan and lowered his head near his shoulder, as if he was supporting him. Hassan placed his hand on his neck and smiling said, "Now no one can separate us." On the other side, Qasim bin Waqar lay broken on the ground. His men stepped back in fear and ran away, leaving him alone. After some time, the king's soldiers arrived there. They had already heard about the entire matter. They immediately captured Qasim bin Waqar and his men. The leader of the soldiers loudly said, "By the king's order, these cruel men are immediately arrested." In this way, the evil spread by Qasim bin Waqar came to an end. On the other side, the soldiers carefully seated Hassan on Badal's back and took him to the palace for treatment. Within just a few days, the story of the blue herb spread throughout the kingdom. People started considering it a symbol of loyalty and bravery. Everyone started saying that no matter how great oppression may be, one day it surely comes to an end. But after this, something happened, which frightened everyone. Suddenly, a terrifying roar echoed in the jungle. As soon as he heard that sound, fear rushed through Qasim bin Waqar's body. He knew very well that dangerous lions lived in that jungle, and the smell of blood had drawn them there. Within just a few moments, 3 giant lions emerged from between the trees. Seeing them, Qasim's men ran away in fear. They left their master alone. Now from all sides, the lions had surrounded Qasim. He started trembling with fear and loudly shouted, "Save me. Hassan, save me." Hassan himself was injured, but his heart melted. He looked towards Badal and said, "Badal, save him." Badal immediately understood. He went and stood between the lions and Qasim. It seemed as if he had become a wall of strength. The lions angrily leaped towards him, but Badal struck the ground hard with his hoof. From his hoof, blue sparks started coming out. Seeing those glowing lights, the lions became frightened. This was the first time that the kings of the jungle had met such a creature, who was not afraid of them at all. Badal bravely faced them. After some time, all 3 lions stepped back and returned into the depths of the jungle. Qasim bin Waqar's life was saved. He stood there trembling. He looked at that horse, whom he once wanted to kill, and today that same horse had saved his life. Tears started flowing from his eyes. He fell at Hassan's feet, and while crying said, "Forgive me. I was not a human. I had become a beast. You people showed mercy upon me, while I always kept committing oppression." Hassan said in a calm voice, "Allah is very merciful. Today you have seen that if a weak person stands with truth, then he becomes the strongest. Ask forgiveness from Allah and change your life." Hearing this, Qasim bin Waqar broke his sword. He swore that now he would never oppress anyone again. Then with his head lowered, he left from there. After some time, Hassan and Badal reached their settlement. It was morning time. His wife Fatima and the children cried upon seeing them. But when they heard the whole story and saw the wealth received as a reward, everyone together thanked Allah. Hassan did not keep that wealth for himself. He built wells in the village, built mosques, and helped the poor. Time slowly passed by. One day, the blue horseshoe fixed on Badal's leg suddenly disappeared, as if its work had been completed. Then one day, the final time of Badal's life arrived. He slowly came near Hassan and placed his head in his lap. Then peacefully he closed his eyes forever. Hassan cried a lot. He buried his dearest friend in the courtyard of his house, and on his grave he wrote, "Here rests that friend who taught me the true meaning of loyalty." Time kept passing, but this story remained alive in people's hearts. People kept telling it from generation to generation, because this story teaches that the person who shows mercy to someone weak, Allah helps him from places from where he cannot even imagine. Qasim bin Waqar, too, spent the rest of his life serving animals. He always regretted his past dhulm. From this story we learn that oppression, greed, and pride, no matter how powerful they may be, one day surely lose. True strength does not lie in wealth and power. Rather, it lies in loyalty, mercy, and good deeds. The one who helps the weak, Allah helps him, and destiny always stands with truthful and righteous people. If you liked this story, then surely tell us from which country you are listening to this story. Your love and support gives us the strength to bring new stories. We will meet again soon with a new and interesting story, inshallah.